Have you ever wondered why the top 1% of the coaches and consultants find it so easy and effortless to sell anywhere from 5 to 8 to 10k packages with leads practically begging to buy from them in their DMs, while you or your closer are spending hours on sales calls, objection handling, and using all these pushy techniques? Well, it's because of one simple idea that I'm going to talk about this video, which I call the anti-sales method. Now, you need to understand that when you're making content to get high ticket coaching clients and grow your info business, your content must do three things. So these are the three things that whatever content piece that we are producing and our entire content ecosystem must do all three for prospects to buy from us, which is number one, it must build trust and likability. So our audience must trust us and they must like us, and there should be a match of values, because if they don't trust you, then it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, they simply are going to be skeptical of you, and it's not going to make any difference. The second thing the content must do is shift beliefs. So this is important because we can spend hours and hours building providing value and establishing authority, but if they are not on the same page with us and their reality is not the same reality as our reality, which means that they don't believe they can actually achieve the things that we are teaching, or they can accomplish and have the life that you are presenting them, then it doesn't matter what else you're saying, they're not going to do anything. And the third thing that your content must do is actually establish authority, and that is done through, of course, providing value. And this is important, of course, because your audience must know that you know what you're talking about, and you are an authority in the space, and you are an expert. So all of this must be accomplished before someone buys from you. And I'm going to talk about how this ties into this and how this makes your sales effortless. So we can sum it all, if I want to sum it all up for simplicity, we can say trust. Because if you know what you're talking about, and you have an offer which is presented to the right audience, and you actually know what you're talking about, you can actually provide them results, then the only reason why they're not buying from you is because they don't trust you. So for simplicity's sake, we are saying that it's basically trust. Now, when you understand that, you need to understand a key idea that will change everything. So every single prospect has something I call as the fuel tank. Now, this fuel tank is basically a fuel tank of trust before they're ready to make the buying decision and give their hard-earned dollars to you. So, of course, this is different for different prospects. So some might be high-risk takers, which means that they need less trust before they make their buying decision. Others might be analytical and they do their research and they research everything and check out the competitors before buying decision. So their trust must be high. Now you can build this trust, you can fill this basically tank with two things, and that is either through marketing or sales. And that should unlock a key in you, because marketing is high leverage. The difference between marketing and sales is that marketing is one to many, while sales is one to one, which means marketing is your content and the sales is the sales calls. Now that is the reason why this is more high leverage than this. Because when you're doing marketing, when you're making content, you're talking to your entire audience. And so whatever it is that you're doing, it amplifies. You're talking one to many and it's building and establishing authority. Whereas sales is one to one. And so you're spending long hours with one single prospect, convincing them to buy from you. Now what most coaches do is that they are somewhere in between. So their marketing is simply, they're making high overview content, broad content, which basically just introduces them to the opportunity and doesn't actually build any trust, likability, establishes any authority. And what that does is that it gets the lead interested, but then they do most of the heavy lifting through sales. And that means that your sales process will be extremely difficult. It will be much more longer, and you need more selling mechanisms like VSL. So long VSLs, scripted VSLs, and then you have all of these things before the lead actually buys from you, and you are spending so much time on the sales call. But what the top 1% do is that their tank of trust looks something like this, where 90% of the trust and likability that the audience needs before actually making their buying decision is filled through marketing. And the final 10, which is needed just for making the final decision and getting the lead or the prospect through the edge, is done by the sales calls. And this makes the entire process much more easier. Your marketing, which is your content, is doing the most of the heavy lifting. And when they actually book a call and they hop on a call with you, they're basically already qualified. They're pre-sold, and all the sales calls then is simply answering a bunch of questions and giving them an overview of what they're getting, so your offer, and then simply cash collection. But at the same time, you need to understand that this is not done by any piece of content that you post, because you need to make sure that every single piece of content that you're posting is working in favor of you. It's building trust, shifting beliefs, establishing authority. And this content is what builds perception. And perception is greater than anything, because perception is basically equals your brand. The more powerful this brand is, the more trust, likability your audience has, the easier this whole process is. Your marketing will do the more heavy lifting, so the sales process is much more smaller. And in some cases, you can even get direct payments through the DMs. And so that is the reason why you need to make sure that you have a strong perception to build a brand. And the way you build perception is through every single thing. So the way we perceive someone is through conscious and unconscious. So the way I'm sitting, my posture, the background, the color of the shirt that I'm wearing, as well as the high overview things, which is that what am I exactly saying, the words I'm using. All these things, consciously or unconsciously, builds perception for you of me, and then that is my brand. And if you want to build a strong brand, you need to have one thing that basically overweights every other thing. So in our brand, in our perception, we have some positive things, some negative things. But if you want to make sure that this positive outweighs all the negative, like this, then there's one specific thing that you must have, which is undeniable stack of proof. If you have undeniable stack of proof that your audience, that your students are continuously winning, then it doesn't matter the negatives that you have. The positive, the trust, the proof that you have is undeniable, and because of that, it's going to just build your brand and outweigh every other thing. And once again, this is perceived value, not the actual thing. So you might have helped a lot of people, you can help a lot of people, but if your audience doesn't know that, then it doesn't matter. So if your IG stories are not continuously filled with student wins, with the results that you've generated for yourself, and this content that is consciously, subconsciously building perception, building a strong brand, then it doesn't really matter what you've done or who you are. It's all about perception. Now, how do we actually do that? Well, I have an hour-long video on the entire content ecosystem as well as the funnel that I've used to generate $180,000 in the 90 days for one of my clients, and it basically establishes authority so that our sales cycle is easier, and then also covers how we actually convert them. And so if you're someone who is interested, make sure to check out this video, or if you want me to simply come into your business and make this entire content ecosystem for you, as well as your entire funnel and backend, so you don't even have to worry about anything and simply post content and get qualified leads, well then make sure to check out the description and book a slot.